Hello, McFluffy52 here, back for Magic the Gathering Arena action. Today we're playing another monocolor zero rares deck. We're going through each of the monocolors and putting together a zero rares deck and seeing how we can do on the rank ladder over the course of 20 games. We've already done mono white, mono green, and mono black, so all that's left is mono blue and mono red. So today, or in this video, we're doing mono blue, and hopefully I'll have the mono red video out pretty shortly because I think mono red will be a pretty easy color to do. Mono blue is a very unique color. I think it is one of the colors, unfortunately, sort of like the mono black video that we did. Oh yeah, linked to all the monocolor like budget decks or zero rare decks will be in the description to a playlist of them. But I think mono blue is another color where all the cards, when you subtract out all the rares, you don't have quite enough power to put together a like actually competitive deck on the ladder. I think there are some few like rare mono blue cards that if you craft them, you get a lot of reward from them. We'll go through that. We'll go through some of the rares that I would probably recommend crafting, and we'll talk more about that after we go through the deck and talk a little bit more about the color. But blue, if you're new to Magic, blue is a very interesting color. It's a bit of a different mindset that you have to play in when you're playing blue, because it's almost more proactive than the other colors, because it's one of its most unique things about it is that you can counter spells on the stack. So opponent casts a spell, you can counter it, but blue, the trade-off for this is blue is really bad at actually removing permanents when they hit the battlefield. Blue's other like kind of trade-off, or to make up for that, has a lot of bounce spells. So you have things like Into the Flood Maw that can return a creature to the opponent's hand. Ephara's Dispersal, which can return target attacking creature for a discount. It's really good at countering, bouncing things, and it's kind of a spell casting color. So if you like instant sorceries, blue or blue based decks are perhaps something interesting. But I think playing blue for any Magic Gathering player will help you kind of understand the game a bit better, just because it is definitely a bit of a different mindset that you have to get into. So what are we doing in budget mono blue? And what are like the best mono blue decks? Let's go through them. Okay, I'm here on Untapped. I really wanted to go through this before we go through the deck, just because I think it will help point out like some of these strong cards in blue and explain what we're trying to do in this particular deck and how I budgetified it. But we're on Untapped GG. This is a website that I like to use. I recommend it. I'm not like sponsored by them. I don't have an affiliate link. You need like 10,000 subscribers to get an affiliate link, so maybe in the future. But anyways, on Untapped, if you go to constructed and decks, you can go through all the decks in standard, and you can filter by different things. Like you can search up particular cards. In this case, if we just filter by blue, make sure it's mono blue, and then we expand it to a full list. This will this will show all like the different variations that people are playing of particular like lists. And then if you change it to like 100 matches, you get just a bit more information. We can go through some of the mono blue decks. These ones up here are definitely a bit more rare intensive, but the one that this video was inspired by, notably, I also should point out, I'm on MTG Arena View, so you can see the cards a little bit better. But well, I guess this deck's fairly similar because it's also playing the crab, but the most similar deck I would say is this one. Mono blue tempo, 53% win rate over 120 matches. What is this deck trying to do? Well, it's casting a lot of like cheap instant sorceries, often even putting cards into their graveyard to help fill up their graveyard to discount these big creatures that get discounted for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. We're playing a full playset of these also in our deck, but the rares in the deck that they're playing is like Hudijin, so there's 3 mana, flyer, star power, and 4 toughness, but its power is equal to the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard. So if you get to fill your graveyard with a bunch of instant sorceries, this can be absolutely massive for a 3-drop. And it has flying, so it's very evasive, so it's hard to block. And then it also discounts your instant and sorcery spells by 1, making it even easier to hold up protection, like a counter spell, to prevent the opponent from removing your Haughty Djinn. And then the other rares that are being played in this particular list are 3 Steps Ahead, which is a very nice counter spell here. That can either counter target spell, it can create a token of a creature you control or an artifact you control, and it can also pay a bit even more to draw 2 cards and then discard a card. These are all very powerful rares that I think if you craft them will bring this deck into a lot more playable, but there's also the question of when these will rotate, which is an important thing to consider with budget decks, or your budgeting of your wild cards. So in the last video, I talked a bit about like rotation, and rotation is a thing in Standard where there's certain sets that come out throughout the year, and they Standard is comprised of a certain number of them. So the sets only last in Standard for 3 years, and so some of them will be leaving Standard this September. The ones that will be leaving this September are Dominaria United, Brothers War, Phyrexia All Will Be One, March of the Machine, March of the Machine Aftermath. Sets after that, such as Wilds of Eldraine, The Lost Caverns of Ixalan, will be rotating next year. Well, and then Bloomburrow, Duskmourn, and Foundation, or well, Bloomburrow, Duskmourn will be rotating the year after that, and then Foundations will be rotating in 5 years, so 2029. So these cards, Haughty Djinn will be rotating in this September. It is 3 rare wild cards, so I don't think it's that bad of a craft, especially if you enjoy blue-based decks, because you'll see some of the other ones up here are playing it, such as this one that is 130 matches and a 59% win rate. And then 3 Steps Ahead, I think this is one that you can very, very safely craft, because Outlaws of Thunder Junction is rotating in September 2026, and this card is just very good blue-based counterspell. So if you like big ramp decks, you'll often see it in those, and it looks like it's played in pretty much the majority of these blue-based decks. Well, okay, maybe majority is a stretch, but anyways, those are some of the wild cards for like this particular deck that you could spend on. There are other like blue decks that are a bit more wild card intensive. We'll just look at the top one here, where you have a Sleep Curse Fairy. This is Wilds of Eldraine, so we'll be rotating not this year but next year. Kaito, this is from Foundations, so that'll be rotating in 2029, so you can pretty safely craft this. This one rotating in 2027. This card, Enduring Curiosity, I think is another very safe craft if you're going for like a few rare budget deck, just because it just draws so many cards, and it's showing up in like Dimir decks, mono blue decks. It's just showing up quite a bit, so I think it is a pretty strong card. So anyways, let's get into the actual zero rares deck now that I've rambled enough. Okay, so what are we doing in our zero rares deck? You'll notice that this deck looks somewhat similar to that one that I was showing, that also was playing the Haughty Djinn. That's kind of what I was going for it, as we're playing the full playset of Tolarian Terror and Eddymurk Crab. These are expensive creatures that get discounted by the number of instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard, so you generally want to be putting multiple of instants and sorceries in your graveyard if you can each turn, so you can get these out as fast as possible and you can start beating in as fast as possible. Eddymurk Crab, well, Tolarian Terror. What's unique about each of these cards? Tolarian Terror has Ward 2. It was also reprinted in Foundation, so it's going to be staying in Standard for the foreseeable future, which is pretty interesting. But Ward 2 makes it so if the opponent goes to target with a spell or ability, they have to pay 2 additional mana, or that will fizzle, unless they have something like Nowhere to Run, which gets around the ward, because that stops ward. And if it was like a removal spell that can't be countered, then yeah, that would also work. But anyways, Eddymurk Crab. This one, one more blue pip in its mana cost. It has flash, and if you cast it on the opponent's turn, flash means you can cast it at any time. You can cast it instant, so you can cast it on the opponent's turn. Generally, you're going to want to flash this in on the opponent's right before their combat step. So you can tap down the opponent's attackers, because when it enters, you can tap up to 2 target creatures. So those are our big payoffs, creatures that we're kind of going for. The rest of the deck, I guess we can split it up into card draw, counter spells. There's one other creature, and a bounce spell. So we have Into the Flood Maw here, 1 mana, instant. You can either bounce a target creature opponent controls, or you can gift them a tapped fish, and then you can return target non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. This just mostly we're going to be using it to bounce creatures so that we can swing in or stop ourselves from dying too fast. Ephara's Dispersal, very similar, 3 mana, and you can return creature to its owner's hand, surveil 2, but if it is an attacking creature, you can pay only 1 blue mana, because it gets a 2 mana discount. Surveil 2, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, and then you can either put them on top, put 1 or 2 of them on top, or you can put them both in your graveyard, or like arrange it from the top of your library or into the graveyard. So that's what Surveil is. Opt, I'm playing this as an instant. A lot of the decks were playing the 1 mana Sleight of Hand, but that's a sorcery, so you can't do it on the opponent's turn. So I'm just playing Opt just because it's an instant. The cards are fairly similar. Sleight of Hand, sorcery, you look at the top 2 cards of your library, you get to put 1 in your hand and 1 on the bottom of your graveyard. Opt, you scry it and then you draw, so you kind of look at the top card. If you don't want it, you can get the second card, but it's an instant. So I mainly just picked this because it was an instant, so we can hold up our bounce spells, or we can draw a card. Scry, again, if you look at top card of your library, you can either put it on top of your library or at the bottom of your library. It's very similar to Surveil. Surveil's just in the graveyard instead of on top, or on the bottom of your library. Curate. We're playing a full playset of these. The decks from Untapped were playing a different spell, but they were playing some Curates. I just put full playset of Curates because you get to Surveil 2 and then draw a card. And I figure with the Surveil 2, you can potentially put more instant and sorceries in your graveyard to hopefully get out your Crab and Tolarian Terror as fast as possible. I'm not entirely sure that's the right thing, because there's also Moment of Truth, which also kind of looks 3 cards deep. You get to put 1 of those in your hand, 1 of them in your graveyard, and 1 in your bottom of your library. This is probably the better card, so maybe I should switch it out, but I've just been playing with Curate. So in terms of counter spells, we have 2 negates, because all of the blue decks I saw, or several of the blue decks I saw, were playing 2 copies of negate, and then we're playing full 4 Spell Stutters, which counters a target spell unless its controller pays 2, plus an additional 1 mana for each fairy you control. There is another card that you could play over this, but I think it has good synergy with one of our other cards here, which is Faebloom Trick. It's a 3 mana instant, and it says create 2 1/1 blue fairy creature tokens with flying. When you do, tap creature an opponent controls. So this turns, well, we can tap things down before the opponent goes to attack us with them, and we get to make these flyers that we can chip in for damage, and it's also instant speed, which is nice, but it also makes fairies to make our Spell Stutter here even stronger of a counter spell. The other spell that you could consider playing here is like Phantom Interference, because it also is 2 mana to counter target spell unless its controller pays 2, but you also have the option to pay 3 and the 3 generic cost mana mode and create a 2/2 with flying. But I think being able to hard counter things is just a bit better. Next up, Floodpits Drowner. So the very top of the meta Dimir and the very top list of mono blue flash is playing Floodpits Drowner. So we're playing this in place of some of the rares that we're missing, because it is a 2-mana 2/1 with flash and vigilance. When it enters, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Stun counter means if it would untap, instead remove the stun counter. So this can tap something down and keep it tapped down for a turn, but it also even has a mode, or even has an ability where you can pay 2 mana, tap it, and shuffle the Floodpits Drowner and the creature with the stun counter into the opponent's library, and then your Floodpits Drowner into your library. So this is basically a really good flash creature, but it also is some of the best blue removal, because we can just actually remove it from the board, and we don't bounce it to their hand, it goes into their library. So that's why Floodpits Drowner is one of the cards that we are playing. And then lastly, of the non-land cards that we're playing Flow of Knowledge. This is 4 mana or 4 generic and 1 blue. It's an instant and says draw a card for each island you control and then discard 2 cards. You will have 5 islands when you cast this, so you draw 5 cards and then discard 2 cards. Just really helps kind of reset your hand and dig through your library. We are only playing 20 lands, but if you look at the blue deck that I based this off of, it's also playing only 20 lands, and so that's why I did that. I'm looking at it, maybe you should play a few more lands, but honestly, I haven't really noticed that much the lack of land drawing, because you can control the top of your library very well with cards like Curate, Ephara's Dispersal, Opt, and the such. So yeah, that's the deck. How have I done with this deck? Well, I am currently 6-9 with it, so that's 15 games played. We have 5 more to go to finish out the 20 games. Sorry I rambled so much, but I figure since the deck itself isn't the most competitive, I should at least explain what are your options for other budget blue decks. Okay, let's get onto the rank ladder and see how we can do. Okay, opponent goes first. Never words that you really want to see, I feel like. But 3 lands, counter spells. I mean, we'll try keeping it. I'm still not sure what hands to keep in mulligan with this deck, just because, well, obviously you really want Tolarian Terrors and the Eddymurk Crabs, because they're kind of your big win cons in the deck. Looks like our opponent is on Gruul Delirium, I would guess. Yeah. They have this fear of missing out. This is probably one of the strongest cards in their deck, because it can give extra attack steps to particular creatures. I don't think I'm gonna Ephara's Dispersal the Senate Scout. Everything in their deck, almost everything in their deck has like a enter the battlefield trigger. So this one discards a card and then allows you to draw a card. This one explores, so it's really not the best of matchup here because of our bounce spells. The opponent might be playing like something good on their second main phase, so we'll hold up the Spell Stutter. Okay, the opponent played nothing, so now I feel a little bit bad about not casting the Ephara's Dispersal, but we can use Ephara's Dispersal, their next attack step, and hold up the counter spell. I had a very close game against a Gruul Delirium deck. I died with the opponent at 2 life. It was kind of sad. Oh, that's actually problematic. So we're playing blue, and mono blue wants cards in his graveyard, and this can exile cards from graveyards. Okay. Well, we'll have to bounce it and then counter it. Going to attacks, we'll just go ahead and cast this Faebloom Trick to tap down the fear of missing out. This makes some fairies, so this should strengthen our counterspell here, and hopefully we'll be able to deal with this Keenite Curator by bouncing it and then countering it. Opponent doesn't have any reach, so we can go ahead and attack in. Okay, interesting. I mean, that is a bit problematic because we're kind of counting on our fairies. I guess I could have countered it and I had another counter spell. Opponent's probably going to eat our graveyard. Yep. The upside is this wants to exile cards of different card types. Most of our cards in our deck are instants. We'll go ahead and counter that. Just because a planeswalker can be very problematic if it hits the battlefield, because we don't really have any ways of killing it. And then you have to attack in to remove it usually. We'll bounce their Keen-Eyed Curator so that we can counter it perhaps the next turn. Opponents knows what we're trying to do in this deck and is going to make it hard. We'll keep the crab. I don't think we really care about an island. You can see the opponent has exiled pretty much every instant sorcery from our graveyard, making it hard for us to cast the crab. Yeah, opponent was on the play and they got this down pretty early. I don't know if I had to cast the Faebloom Trick, but I think it's worth it in this case. That sets up their Delirium. Yeah, this is getting painful. We do have Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab, so maybe, just maybe we can stall them down. So opponent's going to go to attacks. We need to tap down their creatures before they attack. You can tell because they have the little spikes next to their avatar. This allows us to tap 2 creatures. And also, I'll say, any of you new players that are like watching these videos, feel free to ask any questions in the comments down below, because I might be a bit forgetful in terms of explaining what I'm trying to do. Opponent hopefully doesn't have another one of these hasters, because then we're in trouble. Delirium is a kind of like pseudo keyword that says if they have 4 or more card types, they get to do something. Alright, I almost clicked pass to attackers, which would have been problematic. Flash in our next crab. Eddymurk Crab is such a strong card. It's from Boros, so it won't be rotating for some time being. They have the Violent Urge, they do, so that gets +1, +1, and double strike, and they have a second. GG. Got out to a bit of a slow start. Okay. Hand does not seem particularly good, and the opponent goes first. Do I mulligan? This is one where I would like probably consider mulliganing. But it really depends on like, if we top deck well, this hand could be really good, but if we don't top deck well, this hand could be bad. So I'm gonna mulligan. This hand seems better, though we still don't have anything to do on 1 mana. So if the opponent... Okay. Discard the Ephara's Dispersal, because this is a matchup. This is a bad matchup as well, because they have creatures that have entered the battlefield effects, making it very good for them to just... Yeah, this is gonna be a nightmare. Esper Pixie. I hate this deck. I will be honest, I just hate it. So this deck, plays a lot of like cheap 1-mana cards. The most expensive part, I guess, about this deck is the mana base here. Do I negate this or Spell Stutter? I think I'll Spell Stutter. So we get this into their graveyard so they can't just keep bouncing it, which is nice. And we don't have to discard a card to it. But yeah, they play a bunch of these cheap cards. Most of them are like uncommons here. Storm Chaser Talent is a rare, and then the mana base is very rare intensive, but they're actually playing Valgavoth Slayer. Interesting. Well, we're staring down a lot of damage. I don't know if we can do anything about it. You can see why I think mono blue definitely is a color that struggles a bit without the extra power that you can get from... Are we just dead? Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and concede because there's nothing we can do with their board, and then they're going to attack in one turn, and then they're going to attack in next turn, and we're going to die. Okay, this is the 5th game in a row where the opponent goes first. That is unfortunate for us. We'll keep it. Hi. It's a discard deck. No, it's not actually entirely discard. Well, it could still be discard, but makes me think it's a bit more of just straight up mono black based on the fact that most of the mid-range mono black decks are just playing straight. Cannot do that. We need a land drop. We kept this one lander, so and I kept it because we also have the Op, which is 1 mana cantrip that can help us find another land. What is my match history against black? I've won it against it once. Okay. We can do it. Deep Cavern Bat is also just so problematic into blue because our bounce spells are so useless into it. Because we bounce it and then they replay it and they steal something from our hand again. Get the Tolarian Terror, I would guess. Maybe I should have just played Curate, but in the end, I think what we did made some sense. Though I think we're just doomed to lose this one. Alright, we'll attack. If I want to trade the bat, it's fine. Do we shuffle away the Deep Cavern Bat that has the Into the Flood Maw? I think we need to find a land drop. That's a land drop. That's a counter spell. Is the counter spell going to be too late? They're going to play like Annex or Liliana or Bloodletter of Alcazatz. I mean, we have bounce spells for the Bloodletter, so maybe it's okay. And tap down. Well, look, the Bloodletter. Alcazatz. We take 2 damage, they gain 2 life, or no, 1 life. Bloodletter doubles up the damage that we take. Trying to figure out what we want to do here. Bloodletter 2. I mean, we're going to want to get rid of at least one of them, so. Turn this to your hand just to slow down the damage that we're taking, because it's kind of insane at this point. I don't think any of these are helpful. I think we just need Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab. And maybe, just maybe, we can win. Okay, that's its cousin, Tolarian Terror. We'll take it. My Drowner. You don't have to pay the ward cost because nowhere to run. They printed this to try and deal with hexproof and ward. I wish they didn't. Green already has enough problems getting sweepered. Can we just at least get our hexproof? I'm a green player at heart. What can I say? I want my tear. He killed one. I want the other one. Neither of these are particularly good, I don't think. I think we generally just need crab. Into crab. Into crab. Into the next crab. Oh, we slowed them down. Like, we're not dead yet. We can see why when I was on the mono blue decks, it had relatively long game lengths. Alright, that is annoying, but that's fine. Because we actually have a way to deal with it. Watch this. We flash this in, tap it down, give it a stun counter. The crab! The crab has arrived! Holy, okay. We will swing in with everything. We will deal with this slasher for forever. And then I think next turn we can crab. Okay, are we going to win? I need like a land drop or something. I don't know what I need. Maybe another crab. Crab always seems good. No, not the annex. Actually, yes, the annex. They're going to start losing life. Counterspell actually would have been insanely nice. We might have this one if they just play the Bloodletter. They're going to gain 2 life, but then we tap things down. We did it. 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 Tap. Tap. Never give up. Never surrender. Or never back down. Whatever the meme is. Alright. Ow. Get wrecked, Mono Black. Okay. Opponent goes first. Dang. Dang. That is the 6th game in a row. That's funny. Alright. Boros. Ooh, they have the fancy arts. That's kind of cool. I don't know if we can win, but Manland, yikes. Manland is kind of yikes. Curate. We have 4 land. I don't know how we... There's 20 lands in this deck. The best of 1 hand smoother might be having a bit of an effect in the fact that we never have mana problems. So I feel like with 20 land deck we should have more mana problems, but doubled hard claw is kind of unlucky. Alright. The world is our oyster. We have 2 mana thing that can tap something down, put a stun counter. We have Curate. Do I play the Floodpits Drowner? I don't think I do. I think I just let them wail for 4 damage. These cards are... Hired Claw is kind of annoying. It's a rare. It's a 1-drop in red. It's basically a 1 mana 2/2 with upside. Which is just absolutely crazy. The reason I say it's a 1 mana 2/2 is because it deals damage whenever you attack with a lizard or... Triple Hired Claw. Okay, well, it was a good game. I seriously don't think there's a way we get out of this. Unless we just Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab. That will usually solve all your problems, but... Unfortunately for us, I don't think that's going to be what happens. I stand corrected. the crabbening is beginning. All right. Tap down a hard claw so I don't take nearly as much damage. I still will take like 1 billion damage from these like triggers because they're each going to trigger each other. So like, it's just disgusting. I wonder if you play hard claw. I've been looking to play Mockingbird, which is a very interesting card. But if you play like hard claw with Mockingbird, maybe there's like a is it aggro deck you could put together. But you can see they attacked with 1 hard claw and I took 3 damage. 3 damage. If I block it, they can also pay 2 to put a +1 counter on it. So do we block though? Honestly, I think we do. I can do the blowout, but I think it's worth it because we're not going to use the Floodpits Drowner's ability and we prevent them from casting anything else and stuff. And maybe, I don't know. All right. Crab time. It's crab time. Crabs are like kind of low-key powerful in Magic. I feel like you have the mill crabs, you have the other crabs. Enter. We'll tap down the hard claw so we don't get all the triggers from them. And then when they attack in with Kellen, we can play Ephara's Dispersal, bounce it to their hand. And that will increase the number of cards in our graveyard and hopefully find Negate is cool, but I don't think it's important. I think we just bin both of those. We want crab. More crab, please. Generous Plunderer. Oh, I guess you could also play Generous Plunderer with the I have there's so much power at my fingertips. The crabs. Okay, was it a bad idea to play that out? No, because we have only had 5 mana, so I think that was one thing that we were always going to do. Do we attack in? Because we can crabs like 2 of their hard claws down and then Floodpits Drowner another one. We have a lot of things that tap down things in this deck. And then we just hope to crab for the win. Swing in with our Tolarian Terror and crabs. They gave us a treasure, I guess, but it's tapped. I get a tapped treasure, they get an untapped treasure. Generous Plunder will do damage equal to the number of artifacts we control. Human, okay. This is a human, this is a human, this is a lizard. This, I have to say, props to the opponent. This is a very interesting deck. That would have not been my expectation, that I would have gotten such a interesting deck to play against. All right, do we take lethal from their attacks? I think we do. So this is like, this one triggers all the other ones. That's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's like 9 damage from hard claw triggers. I can't allow that to happen. The only thing is like if they attack in with everything, whatever. I was gonna tap down the 1 hard claw, but I guess it doesn't matter. If they attack in with every, oh wait, do we just win? Assuming we don't die, which is it? Okay, we can Floodpits Drowner, the Kellen, and then we just attack in for lethal. Dang. Do they have the damage with the treasure? Tectonic Hazard. Nice try, opponent. I like your deck. We actually crabbed him. Okay. No conspiracy comments or no comments talking about matchmakers rigged. Opponent goes first again, which is definitely rough. But honestly, funny enough, looking at the stats, according to Untapped, I have a 33% win rate on the play and a 46% win rate on the draw. Maybe that's just because I haven't got that many games on the play, but maybe the shuffler's just, or matchmaker's just trying to help me out. So yeah, genuinely, if anyone comments any sort of conspiracies, oh, you gotta pay money and then you actually get to win games on Arena, I will delete your comment. I'm not joking. We'll just keep. You're that frustrated at Arena, I just recommend taking a break. It's not worth getting worked up over it all. Spell Stutter. Okay, so the opponent's up to nefarious stuff, which is a little bit scary, but I mean, I have two opt. They can take one of them. They're probably going to take the Into the Flood Maw if I had to guess. I don't really want the Into the Flood Maw anyways, so like opponent, you really should take the opts. This is a mistake I feel like I've seen several of the black decks do against me. I don't ever want to cast the Into the Flood Maw on your Deep Cavern Bat, because then you just grab whatever else I get into my hand later on. We'll keep the land. We should hear land drops. Spell Stutter. Okay. If the opponent casts a Liliana, we can counter it. Or an Annex. Unstoppable Slasher, we'll take that. They got a lot of powerful 3-drops in black. And that arguably is one of the most powerful. I hate that they printed this. Then there's the Liliana. Counterspell, please. Off the top ropes. Nope. Wow. Land. Okay, we're gonna make us discard. We can discard a land.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like
This game's probably lost unless we go crazy with the crabs. Unlikely though. I'm not gonna bother Into the Flood Mawing it because then we just go down a card and Liliana's gonna. Okay. I'm just gonna say. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh wait, that wasn't a land. 6 lands in the top 13 of a 20 land deck is definitely unfortunate. Again, no conspiracies. I don't believe in them. And I will not take such bitter behavior in my comment section. Opponent might not even tick up Liliana. Who knows though? They know exactly what's in her hand. Do I just get rid of the land? Honestly, yeah. None of our stuff is that expensive. Oh. That's pretty obnoxious. How about you do it again? And then I'm going to get some fairies onto the battlefield so I can start attacking into the Liliana so that it doesn't get to -6 and just obliterate our board. Land off the top. Probably just going to take up Liliana, if I had to guess. So we should just play it. Sometimes it's a good idea to hold cards in your hand. So you can pretend like you have a counter spell so the opponent doesn't play their big scary thing and then get ahead. There's an argument to just holding that in our hand and then maybe they don't cast a Ritual Chamber, but they could have just ticked up. Wait, they couldn't have ticked up Liliana because they. You know what? Maybe I made a misplay, but honestly, I don't think there's a way we win with this board state. Land off the top. That's magic, baby. That is magic. Come and get it. I'm gonna stay in just in case we like the opponent like randomly DCs and we get a free win. The opponent disconnects like their computer, like the power strip to their computer. They accidentally step on it and flick the switch or something. Okay. Shuffler, please chill. I'm trying to like convince people there is no conspiracy, and you're doing me dirty. That was crazy. Well, GG. Alright, well that is going to do it for this video. Again, if you're interested in more monocolor zero rare decks, there will be a link to the playlist of them in the description, so check it out. Watching these videos to the end helps out the channel a ton, so you have my many thanks for doing so, and hopefully if you're new to Magic, you learned a thing or two, or maybe this inspires you or helps you on your journey to figure out what you enjoy doing the most. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say what was I gonna say? Let me pause and think. Oh, again, I was gonna talk about the I'm not gonna bother calculating the odds for whatever drawing that many lands, because we also got that one game where we just top deck Eddymurk Crab into Eddymurk Crab. That had to be unlikely. So, you know, things go your way sometimes, and sometimes they do not. Anyways, have a nice morning, evening, night, afternoon, wherever and whenever you're watching. Take care of yourself. Ciao.